All right, and good day, everyone, and welcome to today's session of Truly Foundation and A Course in Miracles with your host, Oliver Blue. I will serve you today as your temporary guide, your temporary teacher, and I am here, and I am ready, and I am happy, and I am grateful. And thank you for joining this um, workbook lesson today as we unpack workbook lesson number 279 out of the Workbook for Students section of A Course in Miracle, which is our guiding resource and has been for over 300 days. And we are headed home. We are headed to the completion of this project, which we started back in 2021, back in January 10th, 2022, I'm sorry. And today is January the 23rd, 2023. And so we've been in this space for an entire year and counting. And I'm just delighted to still be on this journey, to be committed to completing these workbook lessons and adding commentary for the sole purpose of helping humanity to have help. We all need help. And this download of this great spiritual writing, A Course in Miracles, has been a great help in my life. It's been a great help in the life of millions. And we want to just create more opportunities for more people to have access to these writings, these teachings, for the sole purpose of waking up humanity to the reality of our true identity, to help us with the process of transformation. Transformation happens in the way we think, the way we perceive. The Bible calls it the renewing of the mind. And so we've been on this journey, and it's all about the mind and mind training and mind reversal, because our life basically is, when I say our life, our experience here in this life, in this dimension of life, is basically, it has all of its experience in our mental, or our mind, which is the activating agent of our connection to the divine, as well as our connection to this physical perceptual world. The mind is like the go-between, and it is in the mind that where we create images. It's in the mind where we create ideas. It's in the mind where we entertain thoughts and ideas. It's in the mind where we make decisions. And so the mind is the critical part of our experience. And that's why transformation must be a part of our journey. And if you're listening to me purposefully, it merely means that you have made a decision that transformation is a part of your life right now. And you have found some resources that are helping you to expand your awareness, to expand your consciousness on what is real and what is not, so that you find the answers to the eternal question that keeps popping up within your being, within yourself. That is answering the question of your identity. Who am I? Who do you say that you are? Like the question that Jesus posed to his disciples. He said, "Who do they say that I am? Who do they say? Who do men say that I am?" And basically, he was asking them to ask themselves the question, "Who do you say that you are?" It's the same question that in the creation story that's found in the Genesis of the Bible. God came in the garden in the cool of the day and asked Adam, "Where are you?" In other words, he was asking Adam, "Who do you say that you are?" And we know how that story went, right? So today we're going to be looking at workbook lesson 279. We're still in the section of the this last section of the workbook lessons where we're being introduced to a question every 10 lessons, and we're in the section now that asks the question, what is the Christ? And we've done teachings on that. You can go back and look at the previous 9-10 lessons, and we have really honed in on what this word Christ symbolizes in spirituality, and we have this foundation that Christ merely means the oneness that we all share, that it represents the one self, the one life, the one love that we all share. In fact, it says Christ is God's creation as he created him. He says here, basically it says that Christ is you as God created you, not as you were birthed from your mother's womb. That's not the Christ. That's the self, that the individual self that had a birth date with a birth name, we were given a government birth number. That's not the Christ. That is the self, the temporary experience self, body self, that is not the self that God created, but that is the self that really came out of your parents coming together and creating this body, mind, self. But that is not the Christ as we're talking about here. It says Christ is God's son as God created him. So God didn't create anything temporary. God didn't create anything to die. God didn't create anything to have limitation. God did not create anything that is unlike himself. Okay, so the self that we're talking about, the Christ is God's son as he created him, or God's creation as he created us. We're talking about the self that God spoke about over in Jeremiah chapter 1 when he said, Jeremiah, I knew you before you were formed in your mother's womb. So the self that we're talking about, or the Christ that we're talking about, is formless and is timeless. It's what God created in eternity. When he extended itself and said, I extend myself, and that which I extend is myself, and I call it the I am. It's just like me, or it is me. Just like when a wave of the ocean comes to the shore and it extends itself to the shore, it's not separate and apart from the ocean. What does it do? It merely retrieves itself back into the ocean. So that one wave appears to be something separate and apart of the big ocean, but it goes right back into the ocean. When you look up at the sun and you see the sun rays or the sun beams, it appears that the rays and the beams are separate from the sun. They are just these many rays, different rays, individuated rays. It appears that way for a moment. But if you keep looking back at the sun, you realize that the rays have gone back up into the sun. But momentarily, they was out as an individual, seemingly separate from the sun itself, saying, look at me, look at me. Likewise, what is born from a woman appears to be something separate and apart, and something different, and something totally temporal. It has a birth date and it has an expiration date. And it appears to be that which is real. But as we've come to find out, that which is real cannot die. That which is real cannot be threatened. That which is real is what God creates only and like him to himself. And so that birth person is not who we are. But we become aware when we wake up to the reality that that birth person is a temporary means by which the real essence of who God is can express itself through that temporal body. But where we have messed up, or where we have gotten confused, is we have identified that birth person, that person that's born with a body and a body mind, with a government name like Oliver and Social Security number. We confuse that person as that is who they are. That's their true self, the body included. When in reality, it is not their true self. It's not even a reflection of their true self. Because their true self is infinite, it's eternal, it has no birth date, it has no end date. It just is, just like its source, just like its creator. There's more real about that what you can't see about the person than what you can see. The reality is not based on the appearances of this world, but it's based on truth. It's based on reality. And so it says Christ is that creation which he created like unto himself. He said he is the self that we all share. So Christ is this one entity. It's not a multiplicity. It's not 8 billion people, but it's one self. It's one idea. It's one reality. And it's invisible to the natural eye. Just like the wind is invisible to the natural eye, but you see the effects of it. Right? Who we really are is invisible to the natural eye, but you can see the effects of it. Why? Because who we really are is love. And so when we are in our right self, right mind, you can see the expression or the impact of love emanating from these communication machines called bodies. Okay? Just like your clothes that are in the other room hanging in the closet. Just think about it. They have no life whatsoever of their own. None. Zero. They're just hanging. And they will hang until you get inside of them. But the moment you get inside of a pair of shoes or a pair of socks or a pair of underwear, a pair of stockings, a pair of pants or dress or whatever the garment is, the moment you step in it, it's going places. It comes alive. It has movement. It has energy. Where is it coming from? It's not coming from the shirt or the pants or the shoes or the socks or the skirt or the dress. No, it's coming from you. The source is coming from the body you, which is the source of the energy of the movement, right? And then where is the movement that is coming? Where is the source of the movement that's coming from the body? What's the source of life? Well, you can't see that, but that is the real you. That is the energy of God. That is the spirit of God that is within you. That spirit he calls the I am, which is a timeless, formless, infinite, impersonal, self-aware being. One being, one being that breathes all of us, that we share the same breath of all of us, not multiple breaths. It's not multiple beatings of the heart, but it is the one heartbeat. It is the one breath that we all share. It's the one blood. We're all of one blood, all of one breath. Genesis put it this way, that God breathed into this temporal body, the breath of life. So it is the breath that is the life. And it's the one breath. It is, like it says here, it is the one self that we share, uniting us with one another and with God as well. All of us live from the one source. Our source of life is from one thing. It's not from multiple things. We don't all have individual lives as though it appears here, but there is just one life. It says he is the thought. So this idea of Christ is the thought which still abides within the mind that is the source of all things. He has not left his holy home, this one self, this one Christ that we all share. He has not left his holy home, nor lost his innocence to which he was created. All of us were created in this innocent being called Christ, called life. He abides unchanged forever in the mind of God. He abides unchanged. How long? Forever in the mind of God, or in the mind of the creator of the life that we share. So that's the foundation for which all the preceding lessons have been built, from lesson 271 up to 279. It all has its foundation in what is Christ. What is the meaning of this oneness that we share? Christ basically means oneness. Christ basically means that God is the only life there is, and we all share that life. There is nothing else. There is no other source of life but the one. That's all it means. Simple. It's not complicated. It doesn't refer to one person or one person's experience or one person's life like we like to use it, which only distorts the idea, which only creates a wrong, false perception of ourselves and of the one that we attested to. As though Jesus is special, as though Jesus is different from all of us. No. Jesus is a part of the same Christ, the same self, the same life that we all share. And he would want you to get that message. So I'm here as the teacher of God, sharing this message with you. That wasn't about him. He never wanted you to make it about him. He never wanted you to create a religion about him. No, he wanted us to understand the message that he brought. He wanted you to understand the life that he represented, which is the same life that we all share. That's what Jesus wanted us to understand. And we missed it. We missed it. But in this series, in series that are beyond this, people are waking up to the truth, realize that they are just as much a part of this one life, this one self that we all share. And we just use the name Christ, no matter what you call it. It is the reality, it's the concept, it's the idea. It's not a concept, it's the reality that we need to understand. That's what awakens us. That's what gives us recognition of our own true identity. Begin to see ourselves the way we truly are and who we are. And so, what is the Christ? You are that Christ. You are a part of that one self that we all share. Just that simple. It's not complicated. It's not about religion. It's about recognition and recognizing who your source is, and that it's not a private source. It's not an individual source, but it's the one source that we all share. So no one is special or different than the other. We all share the same life. And with that said, we're going to look at Workbook Lesson 279 today. And the idea for today reads like this. It says, creation's freedom. Creation's freedom. Creation is basically referencing to what the Creator did in extending its very own nature and essence. And that extension continues without a limit, without boundaries. That truth, that law of love, that knowledge, that reality continues to extend and expand without end and without beginning. And it fills all the interspaces of life. It fills all of life, that extension. And that one extension is what God called his creation. And to give a reference to God's creation, for the purposes of this course and for the purposes of some religions, they call that creation the Son of God or God's offspring. Just like in the natural, your mother and dad comes together and have a party. And as a result of that party, they are extending themselves collectively. And that extension results in the birth of what we call a child or a son or a daughter. And then that son or daughter goes on to what? Extend itself. And that extension has continued ever since the beginning of time. And it's still extending. That's the same process. It's just a metaphor or a model for what God did in creation. So here it says creation's freedom. So creation, what God did in creation is freedom. Freedom for that which was and has been extended to be free to be itself, because it can't be anything else. So creation is freedom. See? Creation is freedom. There's a difference between creation and made. Something that is made. Something that is made, you go outside of yourself and take something and reshape it to make something else. Whereas in creation takes its very self and it just extends itself. See? Creation made is only a concept that has any that has any meaning in a perceptual world, in a world of time and space, in a world of temporary. It's not permanent. It's not reality. So it's not in and of itself. That which is made is not real. That which is created is reality. And God is the only creator ever, and will only be the creator ever. And so what God creates, he creates like unto himself. Therefore, you are like unto God. You are like unto God because God created you, not as a body, not as a limited self, not as an individuated self, but God created you from the very place of eternity, from the very place of infinity, meaning there is no beginning and there is no end. So your beginning and your end can't really be traced. Why? Because there's no beginning to you, there's no end. I know this sounds real high level, but it's not. It's real simple. It's really natural. It is who we are. It's where we live. It's when we wake up, you fall asleep at night and you dream and you think that dream is reality. But when you wake up, you realize, it wasn't all that. It's just simply this. The same thing. I'm trying to bring that analogy here. Very simple. Very simple. So creation freedom promises my own what? My own freedom. So what God created is free. And that same freedom is who we are. It is the same promise. It is the same self. It is the same extension that God created in eternity past. And it remains free because everything God creates and extends is free. And so it says, creation's freedom promises or guarantees my own freedom. So whether you know it or not, you in your true self, and the self that God created, you are 100% free. Free to be, free to extend, free to share, free to love, free to express. Totally free. Totally free. You are totally free. You are free indeed. You are free indeed. And anything that would block your freedom is an illusion. It's not real. It is a false idea. It is a vain imagining on your part. It's a hallucination. It's a fantasy to be imprisoned, to be held in bondage. God is not in bondage, and neither are you. And so it is the mind or the ideas or the thought system that we have embraced as a substitute to reality that would tend to imprison itself. Ideas that are not of God. Idea that has not their source in God. And so that's what needs to be corrected. And so, creation's freedom promises my own. So you are free. When God could swear by no greater, because God could find no greater than himself. He swore by himself. Said, surely blessing, I have blessed you. There is no imprisonment. There's no bondage in blessings. Blessings are freedom. That's what to be blessed means. I'm free. Free to be, free to express, free to share, free to give, free to love. Free to express the truth that is true always. That's what freedom is. And so, let's see what it says. It says, the end of dreams. The end of dreams is promised all of us. Why is it using the idea of dreams and dreams coming to an end? Why? Because it is a simple way to explain what is going on in reality. There's only one reality, and that is God. In that reality, God extended himself. And the self that God extended is his very own self. And he called that self the I am. He called that self his creation. He called that self you. And what God extends is his very own self. And so that which he extends is just like himself. So therefore, you are just like your creator. Just like your creator. That's why we say here that you are perfect. Your DNA is perfect. And it needs no improvement or modification. The real you needs no improvement or modification. And that reminds me, here at Truly Live, we call that self or that Christ. We call it the real you that loves you. Because the real you, it really is love. That's what you really are. You are the Christ. You are the oneness. You are that which God extended. You are the Christ. You are the God. You're God's offspring. You're God's everything. You are the glory. You are what God honored himself with. You are that. You are much more than that. All of us. The problem is we don't all know that. And so we act different. We try to find something to substitute to our reality. And it can never work. But even in our, mischief and our mistakes and errors of trying to deny reality and find a substitute, we don't change our reality. You can't change who you are. You remain as God created you. You can only fall asleep and dream of being something else. That's why here it says the end of dreams, meaning the end of playing this false roles about this being this false self, this other self, this substitute. He said all of that. He said the end of this is a promise that God has made to everyone. It's called salvation. It's called salvation. That's what salvation is, the end of the dream of separation. Salvation has nothing to do with heaven and hell. Salvation has nothing to do with the forgiveness of your, mistakes or error. It has nothing to do with the false idea of sin. Salvation has to do with God's promise, and God has promised that what he created will eventually wake up and recognize its true identity. That's all it means. Just that simple. There's no judgment day. There's no all of these ideas that we came up with. There's no God's going to judge you one day. God's going to put some to the left, some to the right, some going this place, some going that place. All of those are man-made ideas. God is light, and in God there is no darkness. So those are dark ideas. Are you hearing me? The end of dreams is promised all of us because God's creation is not abandoned by his love. God would have to abandon himself for you to be any different than what he created, or it created, or she created. For you to be any different, for God to have any other opinion about you other than what he has about herself or itself. God would have to abandon himself. Truth would have to abandon itself. Reality would have to abandon itself. Love would have to abandon itself to hold these false ideas. And it's impossible. Somehow, we hold these ideas about ourselves. And we see ourselves, our self-image of ourselves is that of birth and death, poverty, sickness, disease, lack, scarcity, limitation, fear, sin consciousness, guilt, kill or be killed, hatred, murder, all these things that we get involved with. It's only an indication that we don't know who we are. That's all. And that's not bad. All of us started in that boat. But one by one, God guarantees that everyone will eventually wake up. Even if you have to live 1,000 lifetimes, you are going to wake up. It's guaranteed. It is guaranteed. And so, the end of dreams, because God has not abandoned what he created. God has not abandoned Christ. God has not abandoned you. Only in dreams. So it's only in dreams is there a time when we appear to be in prison or be imprisoned by the limitations of this world, the limitation of this body, the limitation of an idea of limitation. To hold these ideas about ourselves that are not freedom, but very imprisoning. He says, only in dreams is there a time when this appeared to happen and awaits a future freedom. Notice now, don't see the freedom that we stand in this moment, but we believe that there's a future freedom. and as if it be at all. So that's our limited idea that there's something in the future going to change what my present experience is, and that's not the case. The only thing that can change your present experience or any experience is the truth that is true always. And that truth is available in every moment for us to embrace it as our own. It's not something in the future. There is no future. It's not something in the past. There is no past. The only reality is now. Right in this holy instant now. And every moment is a now moment. It's not a future moment. It's not a past moment. Every moment that your consciousness say that you are alive, that you are aware, it is the now moment. It's the present moment. And you can only do something in the present moment. You can't do it in any other moment because no other moment is real. You may have the memory of something that has happened, but it's not real in this moment. The only thing is real in this moment is this moment. You may have a fearful, or you may have an idea about the future that frightens you and creates anxiety in you, but that idea is not real. The only thing is real in this is now moment. That is only an indication that the mind is playing tricks on you. The mind is trying to keep you in the past, give you anxiety about the future, so you have no idea about the present moment. And when Scripture has already told us that it is only in the present moment that there is fullness of joy and pleasures forevermore, when we stay present, when we stay in the moment, when we stay in this moment and remember who we are. That's God's creation, which is freedom, which promises our own freedom. Yet in reality, though there be dreams of being in prison, though there be an idea of a future freedom, though there may be an idea of being abandoned by love, though we may have held these ideas, it says, yet in reality, our dreams are gone. The booger man is gone. The idea of sin is gone. The idea of death is gone. The idea of scarcity is gone. The idea of a beginning and an end is gone. In reality, in truth, in the knowing, in the knowledge, in the awareness, in the consciousness of our true reality. It says that yet in reality, our dreams are gone, with truth established in its place, in their place. So when we held these other ideas, false ideas, we try to use them as a substitute to reality, and it cannot, and it will not, and it shall not ever replace reality. Dreams can't replace reality. When you lay down at night and you dream of being in other places with other people doing other things, good or bad, whatever the dream is, seeing snakes or seeing, I don't know why I said that, seeing terrible things, even good things, regardless, in the dream. The dream is a dream. It's not a substitute for reality. It is the mind being its creative self. And when the mind is not renewed, when the mind is not completely healed, it can create anything, any image, any scenario, and as a substitute to reality. It attempts to do that. But it cannot replace. It cannot substitute. Reality cannot be substituted at all. In reality, there is no substitution. Only in this perceptual world. In reality, there is no substitution. Who you are, what God created, it remains a part of the one team. There are no subs. There's no substitutes. There's no replacements. There is no alteration. There is no change that can change what God created. And God created you in His holiness, in innocence, in sinlessness. That's the way God created you before the world was, before the foundation of the world, before there were time and space, before there was any idea of separation. before there was the falsity of separation and division. So you remain that way. God remains that way. However God is, so are you in this world, as 1 John tells us. Nothing, absolutely positively nothing, as Paul said in Romans, can separate you, can change you, alter you from the love that you were birthed of. Nothing in this perceptual world can change the reality of who you are. No experience, no event, no feeling, no sensation, no activity. Nothing can change you. You remain as God created you. And the day you wake up to that reality is the day that you experience the freedom that you are, the love that you are, and the one life that we all share. And now is freedom ours already. We realize that it is ours now. We're not looking for freedom. We're not seeking for anything. We're not asking for anything. We realize that in this freedom, we are everything. And everything is us. We are everything. And everything that we are is here and now. And all dreams, like he said here, all these dreams that we dreamed of separation, of this individual self, of this world of lack and poverty and sickness and disease and pain and suffering and killing, and all of the unloving acts that appear to be real, they're not. All of your experiences that appear to be real, they are not. They're only temporary experiences. All of them will expire eventually. The only thing that is permanent, the only thing that is stable in life is you. And we are here to prove what is that good and acceptable and perfect reality, that perfect will that God willed in creation, that perfect you, that real you, that only exists in all else are just symbols, temporary symbols of symbols. But you and I have never left the heart of God, where God would have us be, where we could only be, because that's where God is. Where God is where you are. Where you are is where God is at all times. That is very comforting. And now is freedom ours already. Should we wait in chains? Should we wait in chains, if this be true, which has been severed for release? We have been released from the illusion of separation. We have been released from the illusion of being finite. We have been released from the illusion of being this individuated life or separate life. We have been free from the illusion of not being aware. He says, should we continue in this bondage? Should we continue to wait in these chains which have been severed for our release, when God is offering us freedom now? Should we? Should you be in bondage and in chains? Should you be subject to the experience that you have? Should you be subject to the race that you were born into? Should you be only subject to the country that you were born into, the dynamics that you were born into? Should you be subject to the conditioning that you got? Should you be subject to anything other than freedom? So should you be subject to anything other than God? Should you live in a way that creates a difference between you and someone else? No. That is to imprison yourself and them. I know it sounds good. I know many of us have experienced an ancestry. We have experienced a nation. We have experienced a people, a community that have appeared to be mistreated, misused, and abused. I understand that. Some of us have experienced communities whereby we have been set as the superior. I understand that. But none of those ideas are God ideas. None of those ideas will set you free. None of those ideas will cause you to have sustained peace and joy and happiness and purpose. They all serve to trip us up. They all serve to give us a false idea and not embrace reality. They all serve to be a substitute to our pure holiness and our oneness and our unity. It is only in the unity that there is freedom. Only in the unity. Only in the confidence of the faith that we have in our Creator, that God is, and therefore we are. And there are no exceptions. All has been forgiven. All has been released, like it says here. All has been released. All the chains have been severed. So why should we wait when God is offering us freedom now? You should not wait. The freedom is right now. Your atonement is right now. Let everything else go. It can never save you. It can never bring you what you desire. The only thing that can bring you what you desire is what desires you. It's what created you. And that is the one source. That is the one life, the one love, the one self that we all share. The equality that we are. That's the only thing. That is the only thing. Nothing that we possess. Nothing that man has bestowed upon us. Nothing that we've bestowed upon ourselves. But only that which God has honored us with. And God has honored us with himself or herself or itself, which is our true identity. Not only ours, but all humanity with no exception. Absolutely none. So the way you see your brother is the way you see yourself. And if you're seeing your brother as different than you, based on any criteria, you're not seeing the real you. You're not going to experience the true, pure love. I can't say it any more simple. I can't break it down any more plain. Now, in this view, in this point of view, now from this perception and perspective, you see all of the history of the world and what it made to keep it separate from this reality. But now is the moment. Now is the time. Now is our time right now to embrace this freedom, this truth, and begin to be now the representation of that. Begin to be like Jesus said, we are the light of the world. It simply means that we have accepted our reality. It says that I and the Father are one. It merely means that we have recognized the oneness that we share with God and with every living thing. It's that simple. My Father is simple. Your Father is simple. We complicated life with substitutes that can never be a substitute for truth. There is no substitute for truth. Love must be total. Your commitment to this reality must be total. You can't hold one exception. To hold one exception is to hold all of them. I can't make it any plainer. Thank you, Father. But there's no judgment. There's only love. There's no guilt. There's only love. I'm only simply being the messenger with the messenger of love, with the message of love, with the message of your innocence, with the message of your sinlessness, with the message of your purity, your holiness. Therein lies the peace that all have sought, and they had it in themselves all the time. It was never out there. Why? Because God didn't place it out there. God placed it in that which He created, which is you. So if you ever felt without love or without peace or without full assurance of safety, full assurance of all needs, all requirements being present, it's only because we forgot love. We became afraid of love. We became afraid of ourselves. And so, in conclusion of Workbook Lesson 279, we will accept God's promises today. Will you accept God's promises today? I do. And what has God promised? That all of us will come into this awareness of who we are. When He could swear by no greater, He swore by Himself. That all will eventually wake up. That is the truth. So there's no worries, man or woman. You don't have to worry about that child. You don't have to worry about that husband or that wife or that family member or that. God's got it. God has got them. God created them and God has got them. No one is outside of God's life. No one. So you don't have to be concerned about their eternal state. Their eternal state was determined in creation when all of our state was determined at one time. And we can't change that. Not even the most vile acts of hatred can change that. Cannot be altered. It cannot be changed. Who we are fixed in the heart of God. And not a dream or an hallucination or a fantasy or a sensation or a feeling or any other idea can change that ever. This I promise you. This I know. And now you know. All is well. You can exhale. And relax and abide in the God of your creation. You can do this now. All the anxiety, all the pain, all the hurt, all the suffering, all the misunderstanding, all the feeling of being unfairly treated, all of that you thought was your brother did to you, it has not occurred. You can let it go. And in the letting go, you also are receiving the abundance of the grace that was there all the time, and the gift of righteousness. It was there all the time. And give your confidence to these promises. or to the one promise. God made one promise. It's called salvation. And in that promise, God guarantees your awakening. God guarantees that you remain as he or she or it created you. And you're okay. You're not this body. But what he created, it remains unchanged. And you have not, even though it appears that we've gone on this long journey called life, when we wake up to these truths, we realize that we've been on this journey without a distance, that we were always in God's heart, just like the child that appears to be dreaming and going all over the universe, all over the planet, being chased, being robbed, being mistreated. But when that child wake up and realize that it remains in the very quietness of its own home that its parents have provided for them, that they are actually safe in their bed, their heart jumped for joy, saying it was only a dream. It is the exact symbol of the transformation, of the revelation, of the enlightenment, of the awakening that we all experience. So, my Creator, who's our Father. That's why Jesus said, when the disciples said, "Will you teach us how to pray?" He said, "Pray like this: Our Father." Now you understand why it's our Father and our God and our Creator, our one source, our life, our self, our being, our Father loves. It loves that which it created as its very own. God loves you as its very own. Would you withhold the gifts? Will you hold this gift that was given to you? Would you hold the freedom? Withhold the freedom? Would you withhold the love? Would you withhold the one self that we all share? Would you see your brother different than you? Would you? Knowing this, I say no, you wouldn't. Would you withhold the gifts? No. So in this now moment, we can freely say that which was freely given unto us, I give unto all humanity. Because it was given to all humanity. And I released all of the dreams, all of the false ideas that man has made to be a substitute for reality. It's not possible. You are the impossible. In the sense that it is impossible for you to be anything other than your Creator. It's impossible. But in that impossibility is all possibility, because you are free to be the infinite self that you are. And so, we all agree that creation's freedom promises my own freedom. And so we're all free. And who the Son has set free, like the scripture says, is free indeed. And you are free indeed. Thank you so much for today's session, for being here. If you're watching the replay, it has the same impact as the live sharing. Enjoy it. It has been created just for you. And I'll be back on tomorrow with Workbook Lesson 280 as we continue up this ladder that has no end. Have a good day. Bye-bye.